Okay, today we have a sitting session based on Alexandria Nye number 455 called On a Chair, Differentiated Turning. Relatively important to do this one on a chair that doesn't have armrests because you're going to be moving right and left. And a chair without wheels would be best. And a chair without too much padding. Now, this session is called On a Chair Differentiated Turning. It might be better, in my mind, I think of it as differentiated bending, although there is some turning of the head. And just take a few moments to sit comfortably. Notice the weight of yourself on the chair, on the floor, weight of your feet. Sit however you feel comfortable, balanced. Notice how gravity goes down your spine. Notice the weight of the right side of your body, the left side of your body. Notice your breathing. And if you can, please move forward so you're sitting on the front edge of your chair, the front part of your chair. Have your hands on your knees. And for these first few instructions as I talk, just do what seems natural to you or make the most sense of the instructions I give you, and things will clarify as the session goes. And can you just begin to bend your body to the right? Bend. What does that mean to you? If I say bend your body to the right. So your shoulder goes down, your head goes to the right, probably. Your ribs on the right side come a little bit closer together. That's one thing. Or just bending to the right, could you think of it another way? So that you, let's say you lift your left hip joint up off the floor, and it's like you tilt to the right. Lift your left hip joint up off the floor and tilt to the right. Or lift your left hip joint up off the chair and bend your body to the right. Bend. You're not turning right or left, you're bending. And you're bending everything at the same time. So you bend your head, your shoulders go down, your hip joint lifts. Think of it as your back bending. Go to the right and then return. Think of it as your back bending. That's nice. And do it so that you're actually starting the movement from your left hip joint. But that's what starts the movement. All right, and just if it feels a little awkward or weird or strange, you're not 100% sure what I'm asking for, that's fine. Again, it will clarify as we do different variations. Now, can you do this bending again without lifting your left hip? Bend to the right. It's a much different movement, right? And now do it again with lifting your hip joint again. Just notice what's different. All right, let that go. Rest in that same position in the front of the chair for just a moment. And now can you bring your left hand up over your head, straight up in the air towards the ceiling. And then do the movement again. That is bend to the right. Lift your left hip joint and bend to the right. So your back bending, your spine. Good. Now stop and rest however you'd like. Maybe rest by leaning back in the chair or standing, doing nothing, whatever seems like a rest to you. Of course, as you rest, you can feel the right side of your body, the left side of your body. Something's feeling different in your spine or your shoulders, your contact with the floor. Hopefully you don't feel any strain, muscular strain or pain, which would be a sign, a signal that perhaps you did too much. Good. Now return to the front edge of your chair if you're not there already. Have your hands on your knees. And now let's go in the other direction. Can you first just lift your right hip joint up and your right hip joint up and then bring it back down? And just see what happens automatically in your back, your head. So the right side of your pelvis, your right hip joint. Lift it up, bring it down. What happens automatically in your lower spine, your head? And now lift your right hip joint up and at the exact same time, bend your back to the left, your whole back and spine. Bend it to the left. And now can you do that without lifting your right hip joint? So bend to the left without lifting your right hip joint. And then do it with lifting your right hip joint or the right side of your pelvis. A much different movement, right? And is this movement of bending, however you're interpreting it for now, is it different on this side as compared to going to the other side? For me, it's dramatically different. Depends on what's happening in your spine and neck. Okay, now lift your right arm up towards the ceiling and continue doing the same thing, bending to the left. Make it easy, make it simple. Your arm is going to probably move as well, right, if you're bending. And you can try it with lifting the right side of your pelvis up and then without. And which way do you want to tilt your head to make it easier, to make it a balanced movement? Good. And then stop and rest. Lower your arm and rest. And go ahead and sit on the front edge of your chair again. Sit on the front edge of your chair. Have your hands on your knees. And now, can you take the middle of your chest to the right? To the right. Can be kind of a weird instruction, I think. So take the middle area of your chest to the right. So kind of and that's nice. Only to the right, back and forth. So your head was going to go to the left, right? Middle, find whatever that means to you. The middle part of your chest to the right, your head goes to the left. Think of your back. In the translation to this from Alexander Nagy, Moshe said, bring the soft part of your back to the right. You can feel that the vertebra of near your hips go to the right. Maybe your right shoulder lifts. Your left shoulder goes down, right? Because your head's going to the left as well. And can you find a way to make it a little bit smaller and then faster? Or maybe I should say, can you find a way to make it faster and smaller, but without power? Now, I didn't say anything about the hip joint, so presumably you're not lifting your hip joint as you do this. But now can you add your hip joint? What happens if you lift your hip joint up as the middle of your chest goes to the right? And make sure you're going to the right. You're not going forward. You're not turning. It's going to the right and then back to the middle. You lift your hip joint up as you do it at the same time. Now, let that go. And can you do a movement, just a movement of only lifting your left hip joint up and then back? Don't do any other movement consciously or on purpose. Just see what happens in the rest of your body and your spine. Your left hip joint up. Don't move your head. Don't move your shoulders. That's your only intention. Lift your left hip joint up. So your pelvis lifts up off the floor. Good. And rest a moment, however you'd like to. And let's go to the other side. And first, can you just lift your right hip up and then bring it back down? Lift your right hip up and bring it back down and see what happens in your body automatically. All right. And then don't do anything with the right hip and think of bending the middle part of your chest to the left. The middle part of your chest goes directly to the left. Your head tilts to the right. Is it different on this side? Find an easy way to do it. Don't be too serious about it. You're just exploring, finding what you can do, finding new possibilities. Make it comfortable. Breathe. And now can you do it a couple of times and also lift your hip joint? So the middle part of your chest goes to the left at the same time you lift your hip joint. And really think of it as if your hip joint is initiating the movement. Think of it as the hip joint initiating the movement. Feel what's happening in your back. Now, let that go. Stay in the same position. And can you continue doing the movement, but without moving the upper part of your body? So you do the movement in your hip joint and in your chest, but you, with as much as possible, don't move your head or shoulders. It seemed slightly impossible when I first did that, but try it. You can probably find it. So you lift your right hip joint, bring it back down, but you don't move your head. It can be a small movement, that's fine. And can you do it to the right and to the left? So lift your right hip joint and move the center of your chest to the left without, as much as possible, moving your shoulders or head. And then lower it and lift your left hip joint as the center part of your chest goes to the right without moving your hips or shoulders. It can be a very tiny movement. Feel your spine, feel your breathing. Feel as much of your skeleton as you can. Feel the weight of your feet on the floor. Feel your spine from your pelvis all the way up into your head. Good. And then let that go. Stop and rest. And return to the front edge of your chair. If you're not there already, have your hands on your knees. Now, can you push? Think about pushing your right shoulder to the right. So when I say push, what does that bring up for you? So you could push it as if you're pushing through from the left shoulder. Your head's probably going to go to the left. It's like your shoulders are going to the right, your head goes to the left, come back to the middle. Relax, breathe, and feel, what do you feel in your spine, especially your lower vertebra. Also, the lower vertebra down to your pelvis, and also the lower vertebra in your neck. So down where your neck connects into your body. There's some large vertebra between your shoulders. Do you feel something happen there? So your right shoulder goes to the right. Of course, your left shoulder goes to the right as well. Come back to the middle. And just feel that entire movement in your spine. And if you're going to the right and your head is going to the left, and bend your head so that it goes down towards your left shoulder. Bend your left ear down so it goes towards the left shoulder. Sorry, you're not bending your ear down, you're bending your head down. And your shoulders are still going to the right. Now, earlier I said tilt your head to the left, and now I'm saying, okay, bring your left ear down to your left shoulder. Isn't that the same thing? Well, yes and no. It depends on who's listening and what their experience is and how they interpret what I'm saying. Really feel what's going on in there in the place between your shoulders and your neck. Good. And the next time you do the movement, can you do it, but lift your right shoulder up high. Lift it high. High and to the right, and then come back to the middle. And make sure you're not going forward and to the right. That's very common. Make sure you keep going to the right. Don't move it forward and to the right. Move it to the right and high. Good. Now the next time you go down to the middle, do the same movement, but lower the shoulder as low as you can without strain. So you're going to the right, and your right shoulder goes to the right and down. Your head still goes to the left. And can you experiment between those three movements? So your right shoulder going to the right once, and going up once, and then going down once, and feel what's going on in there in your ribs and in your spine, the spine in between your shoulders, your neck. Find a way to make it gentle, simple, and at some point, can you make it a little bit smaller and a little bit faster? Up, down. Very good. Stop that. And again, lift your left hip and bend the middle of your spine to the right. Middle of your spine to the right, and see what that movement is like. Your head bends to the left. Does it bend to the left easier now? Is the movement simpler? Good. Very nice. And let it go and rest however you would like to rest. Take a few moments and rest. Feeling whatever effects of this movement are going through your body. Okay, and let's do this on the other side. You ever thought, can you really have another side to your body? Is that really another side? Right side, left side? I mean, it's still the same body. Is the right side, left side, is that experiential? Is that some category of the mind? What do you think? All right, so in the other direction, take your left shoulder to the left and come back to the middle. Left shoulder to the left, back to the middle. Think of pushing your left shoulder to the left. Of course, if your left shoulder goes to the left, your right shoulder goes to the right. Head tilts to the right. And think about this happening in relationship to your chair, right? So think of your chair as being the base, and then think of your left shoulders going to the left. And the upper part of your body goes to the left, right? Your spine goes to the left. And now lift, the next time you do it, lift your shoulder much higher to the left and high as you can comfortably. Make sure not to go forward, but keep going to the left. There's a couple of points during this session where Moshe was saying, oi, oi, you're fooling yourself, because the people were not actually going directly to the left. So make sure you're doing that. Feel what happens in your spine, the upper part of your spine, between your shoulder blades. Your head goes to the right. Breathe normally, or if not normally, just make sure not to hold your breath. And now lift your right shoulder up as you do this. So your right shoulder up. Just make sure that your ear goes towards your right shoulder. And then can you also do a movement with your left shoulder going down as it goes to the left? Down and to the left. So that your head goes to the right. You're not turning your face, but your head is going down. So your ear is going down towards the shoulder. And now experiment with doing the 3 movements. So once up, left shoulder to the left and up, and then once to the middle and once down. Of course, your right shoulder is going along with it because they are connected. And doing it with awareness. So what's going on? What are the differences in your chest, in your ribs, in particular, in your neck? Your neck where it sort of connects into your body, that area between your shoulders. Very nice. Very nice. And then stop and rest a moment. All right, so return to the front edge of your chair. And now we're going to go back to that movement of your right shoulder going to the right, pushing it out to the right, so your left shoulder goes to the right as well. But each time you do it, can you turn your head and eyes to the left, to look to the left, and at the same time, and then they come back to the middle at the same time. So your right shoulder and left shoulder go to the right, and at the same time you turn your head and eyes to the left. Make it easy, make it gentle, breathe. Feel what's going on in there in your chest and spine. Now do the same movement, but think about it as if you were taking your chin to the left. So it's your chin that's going to the left as you look to the left. And is there a difference? So at one point I said take your head to the left. Now I'm saying take your chin to the left. You could think of it as being the same movement, but if as you focus on your chin, does that change it somehow? Now do the movement, but think that you're taking your nose to the left. So your shoulders go to the right, and your nose and head look to the left. Move and look to the left. Now think of it as if your forehead is moving to the left as you do it. Stop and rest whenever you want to. Now think about it as your left ear is going to the left. And notice the differences. And can you notice that the movement kind of begins with your pelvis on the chair, that it begins to begin, so to speak? And if not, can you actually do that? Do the movement, but begin it with the movement of your pelvis on the chair. All right, stop and rest just a moment in that same position. Don't lean back. Just stay in that same position and rest for a moment. Just a moment. And do it again with your shoulder going to the right and your head looking as far as to the left comfortably as it will go. And then stop in that position. And in that position, move your right shoulder forward and backwards a few times. So forward means forward in front of you and backwards. And you remain looking to the left, and you remain with your shoulders in that right position. And what's going on with your hip joint? Does it feel lifted away from the floor, the chair rather? Does your left hip joint feel lifted into the floor? Do you want to lower it down to the chair? Sorry about that. I keep saying floor and chair interchangeably. And now come back to stay in that same position, but bring your head back to the middle. You're staying to the right with your shoulders and in your body. And think of your shoulder going forward and out to the right. And as you do that, it turns your head to the left. Then come back to the middle. You lift your right shoulder forward and to the right, and that movement brings your head to the left, and then you come back to the middle. And, basically, I think for most of you, you're going to feel your left hip joint getting involved in the movement, and hopefully a kind of a gentleness or softness in your hips. And let's do one more variation before we rest. So remain looking to the left with your shoulders as much to the right as possible. And in this place, just lower your eyes to look down towards the floor and then look up towards the ceiling. Down towards the floor and up towards the ceiling. Only the eyes, not the head. And feel what happens in the rest of your body. And then maybe do it a little more quickly, up and down. All right. And then come back to the middle, however you do, and just return to doing that first movement that we did and see if it's changed. So your shoulders go to the right, your head goes to the left, you lift your left hip joint up. And think of that instruction in the beginning where I had you lift your left hip and you were bending in the middle as you went to the right, having your head move to the left as well. Does it feel easier now, more comfortable? Are you bending smoother somehow? You can lift your left shoulder up toward your left ear during the movement if that makes it easier. Think of bending your spine, your head. All right, please stop that. Let it go. Rest however you would like to. And sit on the front edge of your chair if you're not there already, hands on your knees. And begin to think of pushing your left shoulder to the left. And now can you experiment with moving it forward and to the left? Your shoulders go to the left, but your left shoulder goes forward and to the left. And now begin to turn your head to the right and look to the right as you did it. As you do it, rather. And think of your right hip lifting. It's almost like your right hip lifts and pushes the left shoulder. Does that make sense? Is that possible? And now every time you do it, think of it a little bit differently. Think of your chin turning to the right and then coming back to the middle. So your left shoulder goes to the left and forward. And then at the same time, your nose turns to the right. And you look to the right and bring everything back to the middle. And the next time, think of your forehead turning to the right. So your shoulders go to the left. Your left shoulder goes left and forward. Then your head turns to the right. Now think of your ear going that way. Very nice. And now the next time you're turned to the right, stop. And just look up with your eyes and lower your eyes and feel what happens in your neck and your back. So just your eyes. Your shoulders are to the left. You're looking to the right, so your head is turned to the right, and then looked up and down with your eyes. And then what if you looked at left and right with your eyes? Don't move your head, but you're looking right and left. And feel what happens in your neck. Very nice. All right, let that go. Come back to the middle and rest. And then can you gently bring both your arms up to shoulder height and look right and left to see, are your arms really at shoulder height? And then come back to the middle. And then lift your right hip once and bring it back down, and your left hip once and bring it back down. Your arms don't move, they stay in place, and just feel what happens in your spine as you do that. What happens automatically. And now every time you do it, can you take your head once to the right and once to the left? So you bend it. Bend once to the right and bend once to the left, so that your left ear comes towards the left shoulder, and then your right ear comes towards the right shoulder as you lift your right hip and your left hip. Your arms don't move. Feel what happens in your back, your spine. Is that nice? Is it pleasurable? Good. Stop and rest. Lower your arms and rest. Good. And now bring your arms up to shoulder height again, shoulder height, and lift one side of the pelvis and then the other, and just see what happens automatically. And now, can you turn your head and look right and left as you move the hips up? When your left hip moves up, when you lift it up, where does your head want to go? Does your head want to look to the left? And as your left hip goes down and then you lift up your right hip, does your head want to turn to the right? Does that seem the easiest? Very nice. Stop. Lower your arms again. And have both hands on your knee as we did in the beginning. And think of that initial instruction where I said bend to the right and then bend to the left, however you want to, and just feel what seems natural, what's going on in your body. Bend to the right with or without lifting your left hip. Bend to the left with or without, or with and without lifting your right hip. And see what's going on, what's different. Very nice. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. When you're ready, stop, walk around, and pay attention to how you feel. Once again, that was based on Alexander Yanai 454, which Moshe called on-chair differentiated turning. Bye-bye.